It is so beautiful to see you.
I want you to want me.
Hey out there, live music fans. Welcome to episode number 26 of First Concert Memories, the monthly sidecast from your buddies at the Ugly American Werewolf in London rock podcast. We bring a guest in, talk about one of those fateful nights in their lives where seeing a rock band for the first time really changed their lives. We've had a good run here lately. We've had some really fun ones. We recently heard about our buddy Richard from Rock and Roll Archaeology. Talk about him and Christian Swain, co-founder and CEO of Pantheon Podcasts, seeing Bruce Springsteen on the River Tour when they were young and on acid. Had a great one from our buddy Brad Page about seeing Rush between Permanent Waves and Moving Pictures. That was a really special one, a really fun one for us. And today we're talking about one of our all-time favorite bands, Van Halen. We did one once before with Greg Renoff, the band who wrote the book Van Halen Rising, about seeing them on the 1984 tour, one of our very first concert memories. This time we bring in our buddy Ilan Fong from What's Hot in Strip Clubs, one of our Pantheon Podcast brothers, talk about seeing Van Halen on the 5150 tour. We do try to mix it up, bring in different bands, but seeing the 1984 tour as your first Van Halen show versus seeing 5150 as your first show, well, that's a different animal altogether. And because Jackson and I didn't see either of those tours live because we were too young or not in the know enough to get ourselves tickets, we were happy to have not only Greg come on to talk 1984, but Elon's a fun guy. And obviously most big Van Halen fans have seen Live Without a Net. We've seen it hundreds of times. So we wanted to see how that compared to his experience seeing them live in Pittsburgh in 1986. But first, we do have a little bit of business to take care of. Like Elon, we are proud members of the Pantheon Podcast Network, a family of over 100 different shows. You can learn more at pantheonpodcast.com or follow on socials at Pantheon Pods. And we're super psyched to give a shout out to our incredible worldwide sponsor, rarevinyl.com, where if you're a record collector, you have to go. You have to get an account there because they have beautiful first edition copies from all over the world. They have those cool picture discs that look amazing on your wall. They have the rare deleted singles or the box sets. Whatever it is you're looking for, go to rarevinyl.com and you can use the code UGLY, UGLY, to save 10% off one order. Now, it's only one time code, but it's not just for one item. You can use it for one entire order. You go buy 10 things, you get 10% off all those things. So you want to buy all the Van Halen records, you want to buy a rare poster, you want to buy a tour program, whatever, they've got all that stuff at rarevinyl.com. And then you check out, use the code UGLY, and you save yourself a big fat 10% off your whole order. So visit rarevinyl.com, use the code UGLY, save 10%. Your record collection will thank you. Now back to Elon and 5150 tour. We had a good time with Elon. He's a good guy. I think you'll hear that in the show. We had some laughs. We had some fun. We enjoyed it. But we couldn't wait to hear what it was like to see Van Halen after being a David Lee Roth Van Halen era fan. Then Van Halen comes around. They've got this new singer. But he was a singer that you were familiar with, and Elon talks a little bit about that. But we see what was the difference there and what fun was had. So let's get cracking. We're talking to our buddy Ilan Fong about seeing Van Halen on the 5150 tour in 1986. So Ilan, your first time on our show here. We do have a weekly that is us talking about some of the greatest albums of all time, interviewing artists about what they're up to. Maybe we do the top 10 list live show. We just did a Black Crow show. But this is our monthly sidecast, we call it, about those first concert memories. You know, when you're young, you're getting into music. It may not be your very first concert, but it can be. But it's just, give me a story, because everyone's got stories about the night. Yeah, my friends and I had tickets, but then, this happened, and suddenly, we were never going to get home, or suddenly we're backstage, some crazy stuff that's rock and roll related, so we can keep the stories. And we've had some great ones, especially when it's something we missed. Like, we didn't see 5150.
Oh, really?
Even though we were of an age that we were kind of aware of Van Halen, and it could have been a possibility. We're just a little young.
Okay.
But we kind of did, though, because they had Live Without a Net.
Live Without a Net.
We watched that a lot of times.
So many times.
Yeah. Plus, my dad had this serious sound system so that I could record from the VHS onto a cassette, onto like a Maxell, you know. And we broke that, you know, because nobody else had it.
Yeah.
You know, it was only on video. So we broke that, listened to that a million times. So it's something that I became pretty familiar with eventually. But, you know, in 1986, I don't know, I was in like the 8th grade and all that 8th grade shit was happening, you know.
Yeah.
I maybe wasn't so into to Van Halen. Plus, they changed, right? So,
yeah.
So anyway, so let's jump in. Just let's go back in time for a second to give you the basics, right? We're talking about seeing Van Halen.
Yes.
At the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh on the 5150 tour.
Correct.
This is May 13th, 1986. So take us back. We've done some good Van Halen shows. We had a good first concert memories with Greg Renoff, who literally wrote the book on Van Halen, Van Halen Rising, about seeing 1984.
Oh my God. I'll tell you a story about that too, but.
Well, that's cool. No. But so this is different, right? This is the Sammy era, and it's getting close to when we saw our first show. But so were you huge into the Dave era? Did you just pick up, like, tell me your Van Halen story.
So, yeah. So I was 16. So I was born in 70. So I'm a couple years older than you guys.
Gotcha.
But I had an older sister, and I got into Van Halen at like 8 or 9 years old because she was 5 years older than me. I have a brother who's 3.5 years older than me.
Okay.
So she had a stereo in her room, and of course she would lock the door and keep the boys out, right? But I remember my little 8-year-old self walking by a room and hearing bomb. Right? And I'm like, what is that? Dun, 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 and I'm like, oh, my mind was blown. It was Van Halen 1, you know, Running with the Devil, of course. Yeah. And then I heard her, I kind of kept walking by a room, hearing bits and pieces of Van Halen 1 and was blown away. And then I heard David Lee Roth's Hell Scream, you know, his, wow. I could do it if I do it full volume, but I'll blow out the speakers.
Right.
But,
Thank you.
You know, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? And they turned me on to a lot of my music, you know, and prior to Van Halen, it was like Pat Benatar, The Cars, Boston, you know, those sort of AOR bands, right?
Yeah.
And my friends in grade school were all into Kiss, and I'd never heard Kiss yet. And I remember seeing images of them and was like, oh my God, they're evil. Like what? And then, you know, the Knights in Satan's Service, you know, rumors back then, right? This is 1978, 79, 80, somewhere in there. But I was blown away by Van Halen. And real quick on the Kiss thing, years later, I heard Kiss at a buddy's house, and I was like, this is pop. This is dangerous. This is Kiss. What? After I heard Van Halen, they sounded soft to me.
That's why 8 and 9-year-olds liked them, man.
Yeah. So I like and appreciate Kiss, but I've always sort of felt like they're overrated to me. But I get a lot of shit for that.
Oh, yeah. Don't say that to a couple of buddies of ours. Yeah. But
I've said it on podcasts just because you know all the Kiss podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
So I became a huge Van Halen fan. And then, of course, in 84, MTV was playing the Unchained, the Fair Warning clips, which then blew my mind even more because live. Here's the thing that young people don't realize is people of our generation understand this. Back then, there weren't really videos yet. MTV was just sort of coming in and you were starting to see what bands look like live. But prior to that, all you had were the pictures in the album, in the liner notes, and maybe pictures in Hit Parader or Cream and later Rip Magazine, right? So when you went live to see a band, there was this mystic wow factor because now they're live in person. They sound a little different than the record.
Right.
They're moving, they're breathing. There was just this raw energy, and it was a total surprise. You had no idea what you were going to see before you went if you hadn't seen them, right?
That's right.
Okay.
But so you're talking about you saying Unchained. Are you talking about like they go into it and then he does the split off the top of the drum riser? Yeah. That's pretty cool.
The shit, right?
Yeah.
And so look, I'm half Chinese, okay? And I was in martial arts, and I all of a sudden became a David Lee Roth fanatic. So later when I sang in a band, I was a Roth clone. I sounded like I could play my cassette of my band. We were Slam Circus. I sounded like Roth. Nice. On stage, I would do the kicks and splits, and I was very athletic. I could dunk a basketball. I was really flexible. So when people would say, "Oh, you're just ripping off David Roth," I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm one of the few people who can actually do what he does."
Yeah, do it justice, do it proper, right?
Yeah, right. So then 84 comes out, and all the videos jump Panama again with all the live footage, and you're like, "Holy shit!" Mm-hmm. So I wanted to see Van Halen so bad, and the 84 tour came through Pittsburgh. I was 14, and my mom said, well, if your older brother takes you, you can go, but I can't let you go alone at 14 to a concert, right?
Okay.
But I was like, oh, man, I just saw him on the last tour, Diver Down. I'll take you next tour.
What?
And they came around my birthday, too. My birthday's in March.
Okay.
So I'm like, bum. I'm like, okay, you know, they release an album a year almost. I'll see them next year. And then, of course, they break up.
That's right. The Civic Arena is where the Penguins played at the time, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, holds about 15,000 people, you know, for concerts and stuff. Gotcha. So I was crushed when they broke up. In shop class, you remember shop class, right? In high school, we all had to do that. And you made those painter's caps and you screen printed them, right? And I happened to screen print the Van Halen logo on the front and then Sammy Hagar VOA on the back. And a buddy of mine said, oh, that's a weird combination. I'm like, well, when you think about it, he's probably the only guy who could replace Roth and Van Halen. If
you knew it.
I did say that. I swear to God, you can ask my buddy.
Come on.
Because we were arguing. He was a Randy Rhoads Oz guy, so he always ripped on me for liking pop stuff. You know, he was a metal dude, right?
Yeah, right, yes.
So anyway, so we had that argument. Anyways, 5150 comes out, and Why Can't This Be Love comes out, and I was like torn on it. Like, it's not what I wanted to hear first, right? It was really poppy. It was more like Jump. But then when the album came out, and I think the single had On the Outside or On the Inside track, and there was a single for that had a B-side to 5150. I don't remember what was on it, but it wasn't any of the big stuff. I don't think. Maybe it was Get Up. Anyway,
that sounds right. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, but I got the album. You know, opens up with Good Enough. I think, correct?
Yep. Okay. Yes, Good Enough.
Hello, baby.
Hello, baby.
Van Halen kicks in, and that's Van Halen again, right?
That's right.
So my favorite stuff off the record is Get Up, Summer Nights, Best of Both Worlds, Good Enough, stuff like that. You know, that has that Van Halen boogie. So when they came around Pittsburgh, I was 16 now. So my mom said, yeah, you can go. And my best friend, OJ, who I've known since I was 4, we met at preschool. Okay. And we're still friends 51 years later.
Wow.
I have actually tested him about those. Like, what are your memories from that night? And he shared some stuff too. And we had seats in the lower bowl, stage right. So really good seats, but just not down on the floor because we wanted on the floor. But back then, there was no Ticketmaster. You couldn't get it online. You had to go wait in line the night before, overnight, like going into JCPenney or Sears, and then do the mad dash through the department store to get to the back, right, where they stole the tickets. If you guys remember that, but young people were describing something to you, and then you hopefully got good seats. You just got what was ever available. So
that's right. You had no way to know. They just give them to you. Like, are these good?
Yeah,
I hope so. Yeah, exactly. But going back though, I mean, so at 8 or 9, you heard Van Halen 1, and we talk about on our show how the first time a rock fan hears that record is a big moment in their lives. I think I said that on Jay Scott's shows. Like, tell me the first time you did rock and roll. Like, well, I remember when I was like 3 or 4. Yeah. But it's different. Like when you're a teenager and you think you like guitar and then you hear Van Halen 1, you're like, well, what is this? You know, and then that changes your world. And so it changed for you at a very young age. I mean, Jackson, that's what happened to us in high school, right?
Correct. Yeah. And especially coming off of 1984, being our first Van Halen experience, to then go back and hear the first record, you say, whoa, wait a minute. This is something a little different.
Yeah, this is awesome. Yeah. So 5150 is a change that we weren't psyched about. I don't think anybody was. I mean, it's like we finally got a band that's, these are really cool. They're American. They play this amazing music. Great. What are they doing? Well, they're breaking up. What? I just got to the party, you know?
And they had an American sound. I always say they were the California sound. There was sunshine in their music. You felt the beach, the pretty girls in bikinis driving down Hollywood Boulevard. It was all in the music. As Dave would say, you know, it's all in the music, man. You can hear it there, right? And it really was, from Eddie's phrasings, and there was a brightness to his playing as well as a darkness. Ross' vocals and his melodies and the harmonies of Michael Anthony were really bright. And Eddie's never gets credit for his background vocals, which are amazing too. And they're sort of the baseline for the harmonies in Van Halen. And
gotcha.
Their overall sound was America to me. And in the 80s, we were that, to me, that's when America peaked as a country, as a society. And everybody in the world wanted to be us. My belief is the biggest reason for the USSR failing was trying to keep up with us in the space race and the arms race. They went broke. But also MTV and pop culture of America was getting beamed worldwide. Everybody wanted Jordan.
They couldn't hold it back anymore.
Yeah. They wanted to live the American dream. Yeah. And Van Halen to me was one of the epitomes of that.
Absolutely true. Yes, absolutely. Especially with Dave, with the blonde mane and the shirt open. And yes, it's not everyone can be that, but that's the American dream. Yeah. That's for sure. Right. All right. So you're up on the side there. Mm-hmm. How'd you get there?
I think my mom dropped us off with like a couple quarters to hit the payphone to get the pickup when we were done.
Were you in Pittsburgh, or was this like?
Yeah, I grew up in Pittsburgh. I was in the suburbs out in Park.
What did you think of the 5150 album? You like those few songs that sounded Roth-ish, and then what about the keyboard stuff? What about stuff like Dreams?
I mean, Dreams was a cool track, and I was a Hagar fan, his solo stuff. So I got it. I liked it. I always say I like Van Hagar a lot. But they're totally different bands. I don't like to compare them. They're two totally different bands in many ways. They did a lot of great stuff with Sammy, but the stuff with Dave was just groundbreaking. It was raw. It was real. Because here's the other thing I like to say about Van Halen. After Van Halen, you had the Hollywood glam hair metal scene, which Van Halen wasn't glam, but whatever.
Right.
But everybody wanted a blonde frontman who could scream and dance and shake his ass and do kicks and do splits and a wicked guitar player, right? But here's what all the other bands didn't have. They weren't authentically Van Halen. Dave lived it, breathed it. That was how he was. Eddie, same thing. What makes Eddie greater than all the other guitarists to me from that era is, yeah, he had chops out the ass, of course. But number one, he was a phenomenal natural songwriter. He understood riff and melody in a way, and his lead playing was melodic and soulful, even when he was shredding his ass off. Everybody else learned his chops, but nobody could duplicate his heart and feel. And that's because that's all natural and authentic. That's coming from inside. He had perfected his musicianship through his classical training and hours of practice so that he could emote and just express himself. Everybody else was just trying to copy that, I feel like. And same with Dave. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, yeah, Dave has kind of his own thing. I mean, it was about the melodies and the girls, and he thought it was just all about the girls. And so he kind of took that a little bit too far. Why did someone who was so talented, like you say, classically trained, can write songs, can make melodies, could do this wizardly stuff, but still make it fit?
Right.
Whereas, something like Yngwie's maybe off on space, yeah, that's amazing, but how does it, you put it into a real song? Why did he quit the last 25 years? Was it just drugs and alcohol? Was it just he didn't want to compete with himself anymore? It was just, Van Halen 3 was so unloved that I'm afraid to go back out there?
I think, I've interviewed on my podcast, Behind the Curtain and What's Hot in the Strip Club podcast, Steve Rosen, who did the Van Halen book. Have you read it about Eddie Van Halen?
I don't think so.
It's amazing. So he had a 26-year friendship. He interviewed him for a guitar player and Guitar World. So he was a journalist.
Okay.
But he lived up not too far from Eddie, and Eddie would come by. For Van Halen fans, it is absolutely a must read.
Is that the Tone Chaser?
Tone Chaser, thank you.
Okay, yeah. I have not read it, but I have seen it.
Phenomenal. So many insights into Eddie as a human being. I did like a almost 2-hour interview with Steve Rosen. I had to break up into 2 episodes. So you can find that at our What's Hot if you guys want to go listen to it. But Eddie had a lot of insecurities and so on and so forth. And that led to the alcoholism and being an immigrant. I think I also connected to Van Halen because 2 of the guys kind of look like me, they're Indonesian, right?
Yeah,
they're
that's
Asian.
right. It's their
and
mother.
It wasn't like Bruce Lee was the only person that I related to in a pop culture world growing up. There weren't very many others. Jakey Lee later, but I didn't get into him till Badlands.
Right.
And so, but Eddie kind of looked like me and my family a little bit. And so I think there was a connection there. And I related to, once I read more and read articles and found out about his background, I found a connection there for me as well.
That's cool.
I think that when Van Halen 3 bombed, and I think it's a great record. It's not Van Halen, but I'm a big Extreme fan. I like Sharon. It's just different. You can't listen to it expecting Roth or Hagar. It's just different.
Okay.
Right?
Good. Yeah. Good.
I don't like the production on it. Mike Post was a mistake. It sounds like demos to me, but that's another issue. But I think when it bombed, it really hurt him because he had never failed ever.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I think that really, really shook him. Anecdotally, I've heard that, and maybe it made him question himself. Then later they would do a couple tracks with Hagar for the greatest hit stuff, and then of course they did A Simple Kind of Truth, right? But
a lot of that was older stuff, right?
Yeah. But none of it stands up quite as well to the original albums with both lead singers, right?
Right.
And when you're not writing together and have that chemistry, everyone will tell you, old school original Van Halen had amazing chemistry. The Hagar years, they had amazing chemistry. Right? They all got along or enough to create. And sometimes that friction is what led to the
good stuff.
Great music. Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think that was part of it. Obviously, he had multiple bouts with cancer, alcoholism, major cocaine problem. So there was a lot of reasons why I think that Eddie's production slowed down. He didn't have a muse or a lead singer partner really post. When did Hagar leave? 2004, finally after the reunion tour, but he had left in 95 or 96.
Yeah, it was after
right
Balance.
After Balance.
So that's probably 96-ish. Yeah.
Yeah. So then for 8 years, he had no singer to write for, and he definitely preferred writing. He wrote instrumental stuff, obviously, but I think he liked writing for singers, and he didn't have that connection again.
Hey, this is Alan Hunter, original MTV VJ, now on Sirius XM, and you are listening to The Ugly American Werewolf in London.
Let's get back to the night at hand. Back to 1986. Who did open? Do you remember who opened for him?
Yeah. So that was funny. Bachman Turner Overdrive.
No way. Really?
Yeah. Really? So here's what's crazy. Didn't know who they were by name. Obviously, I knew the big hits once they played them. But when they came literally bounding out the stage, me and my buddy just started cracking up. So by this point, they were both the two front guys, Randy Bachman and whatever Turner, were probably 280, 300 pounds.
Oh my God.
And they came out in blue overalls, each of them. Literally, you could see the stage flexing when they ran out on stage. Like,
actually, I think I've heard a story like that before that would say that's exactly right.
Yeah, and so we were like, who are these guys? What the heck? And they started playing. Of course, they don't open with the hit, so we had no idea who they were. We're 16. We're here for Van Halen.
Right.
And bam, then they started breaking. Oh, I know this song. I know. Oh, okay. And they were fun. Yeah. Van Halen's picked some really weird opening bands over the years.
Well, from reading the books, from what I understand is they were all about having a t-shirt band open up for them. Because what's a t-shirt band? Well, it's like, because they're so bad, it makes you want to go look at the t-shirts at the merch table, because they don't want to get blown out. Dave doesn't want anybody, showing him up, so he's like, hey, we'll do you guys a favor, we'll get you off the State Fair circuit. You can come tour with us. Right. and they don't jump because they're too fat, but they will, take the get around up the ramp and go with them for sure. Yeah. But that's as interesting a pairing in the 80s that I can recall, Jackson.
I couldn't even imagine that. Because like you said, I would have no idea who these guys were. And once they started playing, okay, I've heard this before, but
ain't seen nothing yet.
And the fact too, with 300-pound dudes, I mean, you figure aesthetically,
this of what Van Halen looks like, right?
Bachman Turner over beast.
Overweight. Overweight was the joke.
All right, so then, have you been to other shows before? Is this your first show?
No, that was literally my first concert. And my second concert, which I'll touch on, was the Eat 'Em and Smile tour, which I had to go see because I was a huge Roth fan. And I kind of sided with him on the breakup a little bit, but I still love Van Halen.
Yeah, no, that's the way everybody came down, I feel like.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, so you don't know how long it's going to take between BTO and Van Halen.
Right.
Are you trying to score beers? Are you trying to just kind of see what's going on?
I mean, we were looking at all the pretty girls. Van Halen, even then, drew. So there was lots of pretty girls, like, who were older and like
grown women.
And coming from the suburbs, That's one thing I always kind of rip on new bands and new metal bands. When you go to a metal show now, it's like, 90% dudes. And then, there's some hot goth chicks, but the hotness isn't what it used to be.
Right. 80s hot chicks was a different animal, man. Yeah, that's for sure. All right. And we've got the set list here.
Okay.
They get started. The lights go down, the joints light up, everybody gets ready, right? Because that's something that's different now. It used to be as soon as the house lights went down, everybody blazed up, everybody all over the place. You could smell the big waft of it.
Right.
It doesn't really happen anymore.
No, it's just constant now because it's legal.
Right. Yeah, they're probably just chewing gummies or whatever. Yeah.
Or everyone's got the vapes, right? So they're smoking it in their vapes.
Yep.
So one thing about Van Halen shows, though, you got to remember when the lights drop, all of a sudden you hear Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and you hear Eddie tapping and playing all these leads, going crazy, right? Are you ready for the mighty Van Halen? Alice comes out, but there's all this, the spotlights are going everywhere. There's this big cinematic intro to a Van Halen concert.
Yeah.
And you're excited because you haven't seen them. Live Without a Net ain't out yet. So I have no idea other than the old Van Halen videos, because they didn't do any videos for 5150 till much later. And in fact, Dreams was only for the Blue Angels. There was no other videos. So Love Walks In came out later. Sorry.
Okay. Remind me, because I don't know the timeline. When you're seeing this, the record had come out, right? Like, are you familiar with it? Or
yes,
is it,
I am definitely familiar with it. I had it on repeat. I listened to it like crazy.
Okay.
So I knew every song on the album inside out, was singing along to every word. They did What You Really Got Me. I think then they went Hagar, There's Only One Way to Rock.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And then I think something from the new album.
Third was Summer Nights.
Summer Night. Oh,
yeah. Which is a great intro. Great. I love that. Yeah.
5150! Summer Night, come on,
Oh, the Steinberger guitar stuff too was so unique for Get Up and Summer Nights, which
the little baby
had to play
one.
together because of that, right?
Yeah.
But what a great, cool sound that guitar created.
No, wait. Okay. Yes. That little. Yeah. I never liked the look of those, but it did make
but the sound. Yeah. It was like it slides, almost like a slide guitar. Right?
And he still had the Van Halen design all over it.
Yeah.
I want to go back to There's Only One Way to Rock, because obviously that's on Live Without a Net. That's what opens Live Without a Net.
Right.
And it was a Sammy song that I didn't really know.
Me too.
But he does play some pretty damn good guitar.
Yeah, he's a good guitarist, man.
So I'm at that point, like early on, I'm like, Eddie's the god, right? But then I see, well, Sammy's not bad. I mean, he can actually do a little bit there. Is that going to be kind of the evolution of Van Halen? It's like, could we do maybe a little more two guitar stuff and trading stuff? It really wasn't meant to be, no. But I mean, I guess it was someone who could speak his language. That's why they could write together. Yeah. But that moment was like, oh, now this could be one of those twin guitar attack bands.
And it let Eddie play keyboards live. Prior to Sammy, Mike would play the keyboards, or they would do pre-recorded.
They'd pipe it in.
Right, they pipe it in. Mm-hmm. But now Sammy could play the rhythm part and a lead, like he did the lead on Love Walks In live. Mm-hmm. And then, Eddie got to play keyboards live, which he really wanted to do from what I've, read and heard and so on and so forth.
Yeah. I mean, I guess poor Eddie, he was a very good piano player and wanted to show off his chops, but people were like there to see the guitar god. If Jeff Beck sat down at the piano, people were like, what the hell, dude?
What are you doing, dude?
Get up and play your guitar. All right. Yeah. Now, so, because we've seen and yours was not different from most. There's some songs that kind of came in later we could talk, but basically this is the same set list they did. They did over 100 shows on this tour. 111 show up on setlist.fm, and most of these things show up. But what was interesting, what we all saw from the video, is everybody gets a solo, right? Yeah. There's a drum solo, there's a bass solo. Obviously, Eddie gets his long guitar solo, which at this point had come together, had all the pieces that would kind of become his classic solo for a long time. Although 316 wouldn't show up for a couple more albums, it was already something he was doing live. And then Sammy gets to do one of his Sammy songs. One of those songs, right? Yeah. Did you hear what Sammy said happened during all three of the other guys' solos?
You mean banging girls?
He's banging a different chick in all three solos.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you boo that? Because it wasn't like he was 19 at this point, right? I mean, he's got to be in his 30s at this point, right?
So he was 30. Yeah, he was probably 35, 36.
Right. So I'm like, so 35, 36, you're banging three chicks in about an hour's time. It's like, I had a lot of energy back then. Like,
that's called grit and determination. That's
way to go, Sammy. That's what being a rock star is all about.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's good stuff. All right. So, but what did you think about some of those? I mean, do any of those stand out? Because we've seen the video. Yeah. Did any of them blow you away?
Yeah. I mean, so didn't know there's only one way to rock. I was big into the Three Lock Box album and a couple others. And so I liked Hagar a lot.
Yeah.
So I was fine with that. But I didn't really know that one. I think a little bit vaguely, but it was cool to hear Eddie put his spin on it and Alex put their spin on it, because it was definitely different than the Hagar version a little bit, right? But to me, the highlights were, the Steinberger stuff was really cool.
Okay.
I mean, it was a really different sound. Get Up, Good Enough is fire to me. 5150 was always such a cool track. That whole intro is just wild.
It is now officially 5150 go!
And they did the dance.
Yeah. And they of course, we didn't know that was what it would become, right? Because 51 or the Live Without a Net wasn't out yet. But yeah, they had fun on stage. Eddie was still doing his jump splits and dashing back and forth. Same with Mike. I had started collecting because I didn't get to see Van Halen in '84. Thanks, brother Mike.
Right. Thanks,
brother Mike. So I started collecting bootlegs. So I saw the Us Festival and '84 tours and all that on VHS.
Nice.
So I had an idea what probably Eddie and Mike would be doing, but I had no idea what Sammy would be like with them, right? And so he had a different vibe. It was much more everyman, like certainly more inclusive, like to everybody. I feel like, Dave was definitely the cool kid, you know what I mean? And was catering to the girls like at times, but in a sort of lecherous way, in a misogynistic way.
The R-rated way, let's just say, yes.
But hey, we all wanted, what did I say about Dave as the front man? The girls wanted to fuck him and all of us wanted to be him.
That's right. That's right. And, especially by the time they got to Carnal Knowledge, these are guys talking about becoming fathers and, getting older and stuff like that and buying their clothes at the Gap and shit, They still needed to come up as Van Halen on this one in some ways, like Get Up and these songs that, you can throw in some Why Can't These Be Loved? But it wasn't just party songs. And something like Dreams, it's got to be uplifting. It can't just be dirty.
They didn't play much on that tour. I think it's so high.
Yeah, I think it just wrecks them to
it was really hard for Sammy to sing live.
Well, here's the thing about that, though. So, I guess it came out and did become a bit of a hit. Most of the songs that we were already talking about, like 5150 Good Enough, Get Up, all the solos, and Summer Nights, Panama, Why Can't These Be Loved, they did those at every show, right?
Right.
Dreams, they did, that's 111 out of 111. It's about 13 songs they played every single night. Love Walks In was 110. Rock and Roll by Zeppelin's 109. There's only one who rocks 108. So for the most part, this is what they're playing about every night. But Dreams was 78. So at some point, like you saw them early, and then I think the song came out and then there was demand for it. And so then they put it in.
Got it.
But no, you're right. They did not play it that night. And it wasn't on Live Without a Net.
Yeah, and I'll say this, because they recorded live. I looked it up before I came on. Live Without a Net was recorded August 27th, so about a month before my show.
Okay.
So that would kind of explain why the not Dreams. The other disappointing thing for me was because I always thought Eddie dressed cool as shit too, not just Dave. Like he had the patchwork pants and then the striped stuff. He always looked cool and fun. And they went to these pastel baggy. I'm like, what is going on? And then, Sammy's always looking like a surf bum. He didn't look like a rock star per se. Still like Sammy, but I was like, man, Van Halen used to be cool and have swag. And now they're kind of like.
I know. Some people call is it Peter Peter Furioli who hates his fake surfer dude persona? That's what he called it. But you know what? I bet hanging out with Sammy would be a lot more fun than hanging out with Dave. I bet after like an hour and a half a day, you're like, all right, this has been great, man. But
you ever shut up, dude?
Exactly. Sammy could do a lot of different fun stuff, So, all right, that's cool. So what was your favorite moment of the whole night? One song, seeing Eddie doing a solo, what?
Yeah. Look, of course, seeing Eddie play live is different. And this is still back when he was in his prime. I feel like he had something to prove on that 5150 tour. He was physically, in shape. His chops were sharp. His playing was fast. It was clean. He was drinking, obviously, but it didn't affect his playing like maybe in the 04 tour.
Yeah.
That I've heard about. That's one of the tours I didn't see. I saw every Hagar tour after that. I just followed Van Halen. And I tried to go to I went to every Roth show through Little Ain't Enough. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Yeah. So up to 1990.
Always in Pittsburgh for the most part?
Or Columbus. I went to Ohio State, and that's where I lived.
Yeah.
I saw Roth with Extreme and was it Bullet Boys or Cinderella? Cinderella at a show here in Columbus for the Alone Enough tour. And it was like sort of sad because it was half empty and it was at like the outdoor amphitheater.
Yeah, I like Columbus. There's a couple of different good places to see shows there. It's only about 3 hours for me, which is the same as Nashville, but that just seems so much farther for some reason.
I just went to Nashville for the first time about 3 years ago for a Rockin' Pod and then later go visit Bob Chiappardi, who lives down there now. So
this is a tangent, I'm sorry, but Little Ain't Enough. Was that Jason Becker?
Yes.
So you got to see him play?
He didn't tour with them. He'd already gotten ill. He did the album.
Is that right?
That's too bad.
The guitarist was probably like Joe Holmes, I think, but nobody wasn't that great, to be honest. The guitarist wasn't. Brett Tuggle was on bass, so Sheehan wasn't with him, obviously. So the band was solid, but it was just Dave trying to carry it by himself, and wasn't quite the same. I still appreciate it. He was in shape and looked good, but his vocals are what they are by that point.
Right.
But so back to this show, watching him play Eruption and parts of Mean Streets, I was hoping they would go into Mean Street because it's one of my favorite songs. the Fair Warning album is my favorite Van Halen album of all time. So I was a little disappointed they played nothing from Fair Warning. I was pipe dreaming at 16. You know, I thought, oh yeah, they'll play some Fair Warning.
That's not that big of a pipe dream. I mean, they only have 7 albums, right?
But Sammy wasn't going to touch that.
Yeah, but it's funny you say that too, because I remember watching Live Without a Net, and when he goes into Mean Street, you're like, oh, that's how he plays that. It's
right.
Like yes. I'm like, okay.
Holy crap! Cool. What is he doing? It's almost like slapping the bass, right?
Yeah,
it's amazing. Yeah, I remember I showed it to my dad the first time. He freaked out at Cathedral. It's like, Jesus Christ, how's he doing that, man? I still don't really get it. I mean, I see what he's doing, but I still don't really get it.
Yeah.
Same with like doing his little elephant screams. You know, he picks the harmonics and then he uses the whammy bar, right? So you'll see him go.
You don't hear anything. Yeah,
you don't hear anything, right? The delay and then
yeah.
You know,
it's amazing. It's mind blowing for a teenager.
So creative. Well, no one had made noises like that. He hears things on a different plane than other guitarists and people. Let's be honest.
Yeah, apparently so. All right. So then they do I Can't Drive 55. And you talk about love. Now, how was that with Sammy?
Never a big fan of Sammy doing the Dave stuff, to be honest. He kind of did it with a smirk. And he kind of made some comments about Dave a little bit, like, the old lead singer, you know what I mean? And would hold up fan signs that would be like, no DLR, or, you know, whatever. And I always felt like
Was that his idea? Do you think that was his idea?
No, that was the other guys. I think he was fine with it enough. He understood it.
Right, but they were it wasn't like, we're going to be anti-Dave. They were like, fuck Dave, and we're all fuck Dave, and you're fuck Dave too. Right. And he's like, yeah, I can do it too, right? Yeah.
I mean, they knew him. I mean, Sammy knew him prior to that, Dave and the band. And there were some shots fired in the press back and forth. So he's a competitive guy, so I get it. You know, it's a divorce. You're the new wife. You know, I get it totally. But when he sang it, he just sort of was always like, yeah, I'm singing your song, but, you know, my album's number one. I don't know. Same with Jump, same with his delivery of the lines, the melodies. He didn't stay true to it. He made it his own a little bit, but it felt like not in a necessarily good way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. But it's just, eventually, it's kind of sad to me a little bit. You start to look at really closely at the set list. You got 18 songs, right?
Yeah.
Well, 1, 2, 3 were complete covers of other people. Yeah. 2 were Sammy songs.
Right.
And I get that. And so now you're up to 5 there that aren't Van Halen songs. And then there's 3 solos. Well, that's 8. So you get 10 Van Halen songs on the night. Yeah. Now, you really got me. I'll give you a pass on that one. They kind of made it theirs. I would love to hear them play that, right? That's a little different. But, you know, you're doing rock and roll and you're doing Wild Thing. You can't do anything else from the Dave catalog. Sammy, I think. You know, well, that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe even Eddie, they didn't. I think they didn't want to give any more love to Dave era, probably. So they said, well, let's do some great covers we know, Wild Thing and Rock and Roll.
No, I'll wait.
They didn't have. They
were heavy on keyboards.
Yeah, but I mean, there was nothing left from the 5150 album, so they had to pull from either Van Halen or Sammy's career or do covers, right? So by OUA 1-2, they had 2 albums worth of stuff they could fill out the set list with.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just disappointing they didn't try more Dave songs.
Yeah, and even the Van Halen songs they picked, OG Van Halen, they're all my least favorite songs, so I've heard them 1,000 times. I wanted deeper cuts. I love Panama and all, and You Really Got Me, but I've played them and heard them all millions of times. I would have preferred, you know, Mean Streets, On Fire,
Unchained,
Comic Punk, Unchained, Romeo Delight, In a Simple Rhyme, Sinner's Swing. I mean, you know, I go on and on and on. But, you know, I get it, certainly. The Wild Thing cover, and like Sammy dug that stuff. You could tell he was more inspired to sing Wild Thing and rock and roll than he was to do Ain't Talking About Love.
All right, so they do Ain't Talking About Love. Do you just assume there's an encore? Is it, hey, nobody else is leaving, we don't leave either?
I mean, I knew enough about Van Halen that they always played an encore from the bootleg, so I assumed there was. Yeah. And I told my buddy, hey, we got to stay. They're going to play more. You know what I mean? Real quick about the set list. They always didn't play a crap ton of songs, even with Roth, because of 3 solos. They would jam and go off. So sometimes, even like in the Fair Warning tour, a lot of the set lists I've seen, there was only like 12 songs because they would just jam, but they'd play for 2 hours.
Right. Yeah, I understand.
Well, but they throw in some covers and snippets, and I'm glad, you know.
Well, back in the Roth day, you had to have time for his stories, you
and
know.
His raps. But his stories were great.
Playing backyards in Pasadena, you know, 20 minutes later, and he's still talking about that. So.
That's why I call this one Ice Cream Man.
Old entertaining stories, though. The man knows how to tell a story.
He is a front man. He's not an amazing singer. But he is a master of ceremonies, no doubt about it.
And he's a unique vocalist. So as a singer, I'll say this, though. The minute you hear him, the key to any successful singer to me isn't singing 8 octaves like Mariah Carey. Is your voice distinct, just like a guitar tone. Slash, it's Slash. David Gilmour,
it's David Gilmour.
Eddie
Carlos
Van Halen.
Santana, yeah.
Right, same thing with a singer. You got to be identifiable. And so while he didn't if you listen to the early stuff, he could actually sing a little bit, and he stuck more to the melodies. I think as he got a bigger ego and got more and more into the character, he left it behind. Will he ever be considered a great vocalist with perfect pitch and no, but he did some amazing things. His 2-tone screams, where he's hitting 2 notes at the same time. I know a lot of vocal coaches are like, wow, how does he do that?
Don't do that.
You know what I mean? But he does some really cool things. And as a vocalist, I'd say he's one of the best ad-lib guys on record next to James Brown, Steven Tyler. But there's an art to that. You know what I mean?
Yep, not everybody could do that. No, that's right. And yes, Steven Tyler's one of the best ever. Yeah. And you know what? I just saw Black Crowes. I got to say that Chris Robinson is pretty damn good at what he does.
Yes.
Born to do that shit.
Saw that first tour too.
Yeah. You need to listen to our first concert memory on David Lee Roth with Mick Wall.
Oh, cool.
Where he spent 15 hours with him. And
several bags full of things.
Yeah, several bags full of things and some bottles and cans and solving the world's problems. So what was the biggest downer disappointment? First ever concert, first Van Halen concert.
I would definitely say that they didn't play more old school Van Halen.
Yeah, I believe that for sure.
Like I said, and they didn't touch any of the album. My favorite albums are Fair Warning, probably Women and Children. Love Van Halen 1, but I'd also played it so much, and I wanted the deeper cuts. Atomic Punk, On Fire, Fear Your Love Tonight, that sort of thing. Van Halen 2's got a lot of great cuts. They didn't touch any of those, and they hit all the pop radio, which I get, MTV, Panama. They did Jump at my show.
Right.
So, those are fine. I would prefer Hot for Teacher if you can do something off of it.
Hell yes.
Or Top Jimmy.
Yes, Top Jimmy. Now, did Michael play his Jack Daniels bass?
Oh, yeah. Definitely got that. And he's fun, man. Michael's a good side man.
You can't see it, but right here is my little miniature Jack Daniels.
Oh, I do see it. Hold on, I'm enlarging. That is amazing. I love it.
Big fan of Jack's work, too.
I'm waiting for Michael to do a book. I want to hear his version of everything. I read everything.
He's not Sweden. To do that. He's too nice. And if it is, you'd be like, no, I want to hear the real story of, Eddie getting mad and throwing things, but he won't do it.
So his brother, I was on a Van Halen thread, and Michael's brother got on and just kind of defended. He kind of disputed the Noel Monk that, yes, Michael got screwed, but don't think he's dumb enough to walk away with nothing. That's all he kind of said.
All right,
and everyone started arguing with him, and I defended him like, dude, it's literally Michael Anthony's brother telling you it's not how it went down. So I think we should probably go with what he's saying.
Absolutely. If he's the last man alive, though, he should absolutely do a book.
Yes, please, Michael, please.
Yeah. Even if you're not, bud. How many times did you see them after that? I mean, you said you continue to see him.
I saw him. Oh, you went too. I saw the Montrose of Rock tour.
Cool.
With Metallica, Dawkins,
Kingdom Come
at Pittsburgh. Band, by the way, they're from Pittsburgh, so that was a homecoming show for them. So that was big. Scorpions. I didn't know Metallica, and they were too heavy for me at the time. They were so heavy, I was like, "What is this?"
They were heavy then. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't like them. I was there for Dawkins. Loved Dawkins. George Lynch. I really dug, and I liked Don's voice, but I met him later. Met them both. George is cool. Got to jam with George in Arizona. I was the guy they called in to do Van Halen covers. Everyone wanted to do Van Halen covers at my buddy's studio in Phoenix.
Nice.
And would be there, and Oni Logan, and some of the Brian Tichy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Great drummer.
Yeah, great drummer.
Yeah, great drummer.
Let's see here. Then I saw him on the Fuck tour for sure. I think that was 90, right? So I think I saw him in Columbus.
91. Yeah.
91. And then I saw Balance in Arizona. And Sebastian Bach opened that show. Sadly, Collective Soul opened up the Fuck tour. I wish it had been Alice in Chains. I would have loved to seen Alice early like that.
We did, yeah.
Yeah.
They did the 5150 dance behind them in their jock straps.
Oh, you were at that show. That's awesome. I just interviewed Nick Terzo on Behind the Curtain that just dropped Friday, and he's the guy who discovered and signed Alice in Chains. So we talked to Alice, the first 4 albums, for about 45 minutes.
That's fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Who else opened for them? Cinderella opened up for Roth on Even a Smile. Collective Soul opened up the Fuck tour when I saw him.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Sebastian Bach opened up Balance, Bachman Turner Overdrive, and then we talked about Monsters of Rock. I do wish I had seen the non-Monsters of Rock show because they only played like a 90-minute set at Monsters of Rock.
Oh, right.
I'd like to hear more of OU81 too.
Yeah, that's cool. But did you see them in the 2000s with Sammy?
With Dave. I saw the first. No,
Okay.
I made myself go to the 07-08 reunion with Roth, the first reunion with Roth.
Okay.
And the band was impressive. It was an incredible set list. They played everything you wanted to hear. Roth had moments where but I mean, I'd known after seeing him in 90, his voice, he could still hit the screams, but post a Little Ain't Enough tour, he couldn't hit the high stuff anymore. The screams,
gotcha.
Which is a signature thing for him live, right? If you watch any of the old bootlegs. So I tried to go see him when I was living in Vegas and DJing in Vegas. He was supposed to open for Bad Company, the original lineup for Bad Company, to reunion. And they played at the Joint and at the Hard Rock in Las Vegas. And I had like third row seats for that, I love Bad Company, but I also saw Roth as opening, so I really wanted to go see that band with John 5. And he canceled like 2 hours before the show. He didn't play. I'm like, dang it. Yeah. So I didn't get to see him at post Roth other than Van Halen in 07-08. It was okay. He dresses now, I'll say, like a Jewish train conductor half the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, and he's sort of lecherous and I love Dave and I still love hearing him do interviews. He's a really great storyteller. But live, it's kind of cringy the way he moves. And like, I don't expect him to run and jump and do splits anymore at 70, but there's a way to, Mick Jagger kind of has pulled off that balance of still being Mick Jagger, but doing it in an 80s sort of way. Like I'm 80 now, right? Same with Steven Tyler. Roth, I still feels like he's starting to pull back a little bit, so he's not quite as
creepy.
Yeah, creepy. But I won't go see him, so I wouldn't go see on the Simple Kind of Truth tour. I just didn't. And I love Roth era Van Halen, and I love David Lee Roth, and I want to remember him when he was in his prime. And
I understand, yeah.
The greatest show I've ever seen is the Eat 'Em a Smile show. And I had 6th row front and center for that, and it was incredible.
And so, but including Van Halen, that was the best.
That was probably my favorite show of all time.
Over 5150, yeah.
Even over 5150.
Yeah.
Steve Vai, Billy Sheehan absolutely killed it. The set list was amazing.
Yeah, that's cool.
Dave was trying to, he sang really good. If you've seen the 1 or 2 bootlegs for him, he sang really good. The steel drum thing was really cool. They did some different stuff, some fun stuff. I love the Eat 'Em a Smile album. I think it holds up very well to the Roth era Van Halen records. I mean, Ladies Night in Buffalo, Big Trouble. There's just so many good songs on there. Shy Boy, Yankee Rose. I can go on and on. That's a great album.
All right. Well, now you've experienced your first concert ever, Van Halen concert. You still got the buzz in your ears. You're walking fast because it feels good. What are you doing after the show?
Well, got to call mom.
Yeah, come pick me up.
Got to find a payphone.
A payphone, kids, that all sorts of people had touched for days and years.
Then, right? You don't care. You didn't wash your hands back then.
No, there's no reason.
Nobody washed their hands.
Yeah.
Nobody wore seatbelts. We didn't wear helmets. We drank out of the hose.
Every time.
Hey, it's Brian Slagle. I'm the CEO of Metal Blade Records, and you're listening to the Ugly American Werewolf in London show.
Oh, yeah, here's a question for you. Did you have any interest in seeing the thing that Sammy did last year with Satriani and Mike?
I did go.
Oh, you did go?
Indianapolis. Yeah, me and all my roommates from college, they were all big Van Halen fans, and they were all most of them were more Hagar era.
Uh-huh.
But it was fun. It was Sammy's, for the first time, and I give him credit because his vocals did not show their age up until about 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
And he can still sing, don't get me wrong. But for the first time, you can tell he doesn't have the range he used to. And he, too, with what he says on stage, is getting a little creepy.
It's a little dated at this point, yeah.
Yeah, some of the things he does on stage. But it was good. Satriani, I didn't expect him to try and be like Van Halen.
Right.
But there was something missing in how he interpreted the songs. He's just not as groovy a player. The leads were really cool and different and interesting, and he stuck melodically to a lot of it. It was still a fun show.
Joe's pretty clinical, especially when he's doing other people's stuff.
That's a good way to describe it.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
I think isn't he a natural robot?
I mean, he does stuff that, like Steve Vai has more like, I don't know, groove to him than Joe does. Joe is, I think he's got some kind of atomically straight metronome in his head, and he can do stuff not everybody can do. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately for us, for the Indianapolis show, we had lightning storms come through twice. And we missed about 45 minutes of the show. They had to cut it short. So we only got about 90 minutes of music. So we had like a 40-minute stop in the middle of the show because of lightning. Then they restarted for about 20 minutes and then storm. And he kept playing. He started doing acoustic stuff and improvising stuff because the fire department was like, you got to get off stage. We got to get these people safe. And he finally said, okay, guys, go home, be safe. We got to call it. So I was bummed because I would have liked to hear more. But the setlist was really fun. They did 5150, which is nice. We got to see that. We had a good time.
It's a good spot up there in Carmel, but that's just far enough from Louisville that I have to stay the night. If it's downtown Indy, I can drive home and get home by like 12:30 or before that. But if it's Carmel, it's just far enough that it's a little too late, and I get that adds to my expense. And I have sold and like canceled more shows to Carmel in the last however many years just because like when I get, I'm like, yeah, I'll go up to the show. I'm like, oh no, I don't want to spend the night up in there in Carmel. You know? That's what getting old does to you, man.
So if you're looking for fun concert stories, I got one for you. It's not Van Halen related. If you want to hear, if you got time.
Yeah, sure, give us one.
Okay, so for my 40th birthday, my brother surprised me. A good friend of ours went to college with Axl Rose's younger brother, Stuart Bailey. And so they surprised me for my 40th birthday, and we flew up to Canada and went on tour with Guns N' Roses for a week. Full access, backstage, hotel rooms, everything. Right? Wow. This is Bumblefoot, DJ Ashba, Fortis, the bass player from...
Tommy Stinson?
Yes, Tommy Stinson. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Great lineup. Frankie on drums. Dizzy was still playing the keys.
Still is.
Yeah. Great lineup. Great show. It was the first time playing Montreal since the Metallica blow up in Toronto.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting.
So a couple things. They don't go on till midnight in Montreal.
Come on, dude. You've not learned fucking anything, Axl.
I have a bunch of good stories from this tour. And so we're backstage hanging out in the dressing room. They're warming up. Axl's off doing his thing. Part of it is he won't go on until he's ready. He wants, and look, I'll give the man credit. They play 2 to 3 hours or 2 to 2.5 hours every night.
Okay. But
he does not stop. He's running around. He's singing. So he wants to get his voice in shape and give you his best. Okay. But so, they lose their ass because they got to pay fines out the ass once you go past that point. So they kind of break even a lot, at least back then. Now they're more on time because Duff and Slash.
And they're charging a lot of money. They're playing big shows. He
gets on stage. I don't remember the set, but after the first or second song, he's like, "Hey, Montreal, it's been a long time since I seen you fuckers." Right? He's like, I recognize some of you. Last time I recognized some of you, you were tearing all my shit up on stage. And there was this like pause, like, and we're all like, oh my God, is the crowd going to boo? Are they going to rush the stage? Is he going to go off on them? And he just smiled. He's like, I love it, baby. That's rock and roll. We're sorry it's been so long. And the place went bananas. They played an over 3-hour set, which was incredible.
Wow.
Just an amazing show. We go backstage. So now it's like 3 a.m. We go backstage. We're hanging out. They have about 100 guests they've invited from the crowd backstage. We're waiting in probably the mess hall. And so we're there for like an hour. And then they say, okay, let's all go back to Axl's dressing room. So we go back down to his dressing room, all 100 of us. And he's just sitting on a couch talking to everybody. He's DJing. He'll get up and like play some Elton John and some Billy Joel and some good shit, right? And then after an hour or so it's got to be 4 or 5 in the morning, they cut that group down in half. We all get on a shuttle bus that takes us to a nightclub that is open, waiting for us. Open bar, fully staffed, DJ, everything.
That's the after party, man. That's
Drinking
the real
party,
deal right
party.
there. Yes.
They cut that group in half. We go down an elevator. Now it's just me and my brother and the 2 guys we came with. And so 4 of us, the band, their wives, girlfriends, friends, whoever's, and then maybe 10 people from that other bigger group in this ultra lounge underground that had like a wall of skulls with candles in them. It was really cool. Drinking, then we go back to the hotel, the Four Seasons, you know what I mean, or wherever Axl was staying, the presidential suite.
Yeah, was this like 8, 10 in the morning? What time?
Yeah, it's like 8, 9 in the morning by the time we got back to the hotel. Okay. So we fly ahead to Toronto. They got to take the tour bus, most of them, and we go to Toronto, and it's like, this is January of 2010. So it's like negative 25 degrees. There's a blizzard going through. It's Friday. They don't play till Saturday. We all decide to go to a club. We're hanging out with Axl and his hotel. He's like, yeah, you guys go. I'm going to stay in. But we all go to a club. So like 15, 16 of us, like Bumblefoot, DJ Ashba, Frankie, Fortis, pretty much the whole band, all of Axl's assistants and, the Brazilian crew. And we go to a nightclub, and there's really nobody there because there's a blizzard going on.
Yeah.
And there's one VIP section of like 2 guys and 4 or 5 girls. And we get a booth and we're doing bottle service. And the DJ starts playing Sweet Child of Mine.
Okay.
Now, by this point, everyone in Guns N' Roses knows I'm a strip club DJ. Right?
Oh, okay. Yes, we've been telling them all night. Yeah, that's
We've
been on tour with them.
Right? Yeah. And so like everyone's like, Ilan, tell him to turn that shit off. So I'm going running across the club, waving my hands at DJ, like, and he's all happy, like,
Guns N' Roses.
What are you doing? He's like,
dickhead.
I said, why are you playing this? He's like, it's Guns N' Roses. I'm like, dude, you're a DJ. Never play the artist's music unless they request it. So the owner comes running over, like, what are you doing? So he's like, screech. He turns it off, turns on a different song. He's like, what do they want to hear? And it was funny enough, they wanted to hear hip hop. So they started playing hip hop. The other VIP booth, I guess, is some Toronto drug dealers, and they're not happy because all the girls are kind of floating over to our booth.
Yeah, there you go.
So like, Elon, go talk to those guys, invite them over, or tell them to fuck off. And I'm like, oh, great. So now I got to do this.
I go tell the drug dealers.
You're
to
the
fuck
emissary
off?
of the drug dealers. Yeah.
That sounds
So
awesome.
I kind of tried to invite them over, and they're like, fuck you. Well, then the owner comes over, kicks them out, and he's like, we don't like, look, either get along and hang out with Guns N' Roses or go home. I don't care. They're spending a lot of money. Bye.
That's right.
So we leave, and this is the fun part of the story, and this is the fun part. So we all get in cabs, I think 3 or 4 cabs now. We all fit in 3 or 4 cabs. It's got to be 3, 4 in the morning. They stayed open for us past the liquor license. It's a blizzard, and they're like, all the cab drivers are Middle Eastern guys. I couldn't tell you where from, but just to set the stage. And at a red light, my buddy Nick, who knows Axel's younger brother, grabs the Windex and jumps out of the red light, and he's like, hey, roll down your window. And he starts shooting Windex at everybody in the car. Next thing you know, we're flying through the streets of Toronto, which looks like
a slalom
thing, because it's slow. It's snow, right? There's nobody on the streets. It's like this massive city. There's nobody out except us. And now we're doing 55, 60 miles an hour, blowing through red lights. Everyone's got whatever Windex bottle they had. We're skirting out the windows. Occasionally they'd stop a light. We'd all get out, have a Windex battle. And the cabbies are on their radios, and we couldn't understand what they're saying here. Blah, 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 Windex, blah, 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 Guns N' Roses. Blah, blah, blah. They're all laughing and cackling away. It was the best time. Bumblefoot even remembered that when I had him on the show. And he's like, oh my God, you were there? I go, yeah, that was me. He's like, oh, okay. He's like, that's one of my favorite tour stories. Like, how does that happen?
Great. Well, we may have to have you come back.
Yeah,
maybe it was your first Guns N' Roses. It was your first one in Montreal. So
Yes.
that qualifies for first
There we
concert
go.
memories for sure. And why don't you give our listeners, the what's down on your shows and the websites and where to find you and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. So at Ilan Fong on Instagram and Facebook. You can find us at www.whatshotitsc.com. That's our website. You can find us on all major streaming platforms as What's Hot in the Strip Clubs. Real quick, we have the Panda Top 20 DJs from around the country send me their top 10 songs. We create a top 20 countdown chart for songs in strip clubs in the world. And we do Behind the Curtain, which is a one-on-one interview either with musicians or people in the industry or strippers or porn stars, and kind of find out what they're really about. We do remix shows of classic rock, hip hop. So we'll do a decade, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s remixes of classic rock stuff.
Yeah,
that's good for the clubs. We do Panda Off the Charts, where we have Bob Chiappardi, who's a legendary promoter. He did the Foundations Forum in the 90s, 80s, and 90s. He's worked with everybody from Metallica and Ozzy, and he brings us all our musical guests. So we have quite the list of people we've interviewed.
Yeah, that's right.
But we do a new show every week. So What's Hot in the Strip Clubs is the name of the podcast. We're on Spotify, Apple, all the major streaming platforms. Hey man, this has been a blast. Anytime you want to talk, I can talk music all night, and you guys are knowledgeable and fun, man. This is great.
Well, thanks, man. Look, this is what we love. No, we're not in the business. We had to go get straight jobs. That's what our parents kind of forced us to do. But it's something we never have enough knowledge of. We want all the details, we want all the minutia, and the fact of the matter is, there's great stories around seeing bands live in everyone's life.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, Elon. Keep doing what you're doing.
All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks. See you guys. Well, we have to thank our buddy Ilan Fong from What's Hot in the Strip Clubs to come out and talk to us about his night in 1986 seeing the mighty Van Halen on the 5150 tour. Van Halen has been a big deal for a lot of people. That first time you heard that first record is life-changing. And though we had to work our way back from 1984, it hits hard no matter when you first hear it. And it was no doubt for him when he heard it as an 8 or 9 year old. That's unbelievable. So getting exposed to Van Halen that young in life and then eventually being able to see them on this tour, well, that's fun. That's a special night, and that's what we try to capture here on First Concert Memories. Those special nights where rock and roll plays a major part in not only your musical development, but your development as a human being, as an adult, as an individual, maybe as a party animal. Depends on where the story might take us. But we're here to have fun and relive these special moments in our lives. And we want to know from you, what are your first concert memories? What's the greatest show you ever saw? What's the craziest night or craziest thing that ever happened to you when you were going to a concert? Yeah, you let us know. Email us. It's uglyamericanwerewolf@gmail.com. You let us know the bands you love to see live or the bands who you didn't and you love to hear a story about. Please make sure you download and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. It makes sure you never miss an episode. And those downloads are the lifeblood of growing our show and finding more cool guests to have on. If you really want to help us out, A, write us a 5-star review because it means the world to us and helps us find more rock and rollers like you. B, we might just read it on an episode. And C, go to rarevinyl.com, our sponsor, use the code UGLY, save 10%. You know they've got some cool Van Halen stuff. They've got all sorts of cool stuff for you. And not only does it help your record collection, it helps our show. That's it for this month. But we're super psyched about a guest who's going to come on and tell us about a band that we worship, but we never got to see because they broke up when we were like 7 years old. Longtime listeners may be able to figure that out. The rest of you are just going to have to wait for a month till First Concert Memories 27 comes out. But until then, keep going to see live music. It's the best way to keep rock alive.